Right now, as you read this, something is happening just beneath your ribs that no one ever taught you to feel. A single mouthful of food, let's say a spoonful of warm white rice, touches your tongue. Within minutes, it breaks apart into millions of tiny sugar molecules. They flood into your bloodstream like a rising tide. And they go looking for a door. That door sits on the surface of every cell in your body. Behind it is energy, life, the fuel that lets you think, move, breathe, and heal. To open it, your body sends a key, a hormone called insulin, the doorman of every cell you own. For most of human history, this dance worked perfectly. Sugar arrives, insulin knocks, the door swings open, and the sugar flows inside to become energy. Clean, quiet, invisible. But in a body sliding toward type 2 diabetes, something has gone wrong. Insulin knocks, and the door does not move. It knocks louder. Still nothing. The locks have rusted shut, and so the sugar has nowhere to go. It backs up in your blood, rising higher and higher, hour after hour, like floodwater with no drain. You don't see it, you don't feel it, not at first. What you feel instead is something smaller, stranger. A wall of exhaustion that hits you 20 minutes after lunch. A fog that rolls across your mind in the middle of a sentence. A thirst that never quite leaves. Cravings that ambush you at 9 at night and refuse to be reasoned with. You blame your age, your sleep, your willpower, your stress. You blame everything except the truth, because the truth is happening at a level too small to see. Here is the part almost no one explains. By the time a doctor says the word diabetes out loud, this silent flooding has often been going on for years. Quietly, patiently, rewiring the way your body handles every single bite you take. But I want to plant something in your mind right now, and I want you to hold on to it, because it will not make sense until the very end of this. There is a strange medical fact buried in the research. When certain people with type 2 diabetes change the way they eat, their blood sugar can return to a normal range in just 7 days. Not 7 months, 7 days. And here's the part that breaks the rules. This happens before they have lost any real weight at all. 7 days, no meaningful weight loss. A disease the world calls permanent, suddenly loosening its grip. How is that even possible? Stay with me, because by the end of this, you are going to understand exactly what is happening inside your own body every time you eat, and why the food on your plate tonight has far more power than any pill in your cabinet. Let's start with the trap. Picture your kitchen table on an ordinary morning. A bowl of rice porridge, a glass of orange juice, a slice of soft white bread with a little jam, maybe a banana on the side. Nothing here looks like a villain. There is no candy bar, no soda, no birthday cake. This is the food we have been told is normal, even healthy. And that is exactly why it works so well as a trap. Because your body does not read the label on the package. It does not care whether a food is marketed as wholesome or natural or low fat. Your body only asks one question of every bite. How fast do you turn into sugar? And the answer for most of these soft, pale, gentle foods is terrifyingly fast. White rice, white bread, juice, sweetened cereal, these break down almost the instant they hit you. There is nothing left in them to slow the process down. No real fiber to act as a brake. So the sugar doesn't trickle into your blood. It crashes in all at once, a wave instead of a stream. Now remember the doorman. In a body that's working right, insulin rises to meet that wave, opens the cellular doors, and ushers the sugar safely inside. But you already know what is happening in a body drifting toward diabetes. The doors are sticking. So the sugar piles up in the blood, and your pancreas panics. It screams for more insulin, double the volume, triple. Anything to force those rusted doors open. And for a while it works. That is the cruelest part. For years, your overworked pancreas keeps up, hiding the damage, keeping your blood sugar looking almost normal on a routine test. You feel tired and foggy and you crave sugar by the evening, but every checkup says you are fine. So you keep eating the porridge, the juice, the bread. Here is what I need you to understand, and I need you to really hear this. This is not a willpower problem. When your blood sugar spikes and then crashes, your brain genuinely believes it is starving. The cravings that hit you at night are not weakness. They are a biological alarm. This is not a calorie problem either. You could eat the exact same number of calories in a completely different form, and your body would respond in an entirely different way. And this is not some genetic curse written into your fate at birth. This is a signaling breakdown, a conversation between your food and your cells that has slowly, quietly gone wrong. The food is not evil. Rice is not your enemy. The problem is the speed, the form, the order, and the silence. The fact that no one ever showed you what these meals are actually doing on the inside. So let's go there now. Let's go past the rusted doors and step inside the cell itself, because this is where the real story begins. Shrink yourself down, smaller than a grain of sand, smaller than a single drop of blood, until you are standing on the outer wall of one of your own muscle cells. This is where the real battle is being fought. The wall around you is studded with thousands of tiny gates. In a body that handles sugar well, when insulin arrives, it touches one of these gates and the gate opens, pulling sugar out of the blood and into the cell to be burned for energy. Doctors have a name for what happens when those gates stop responding. They call it insulin resistance. It sounds clinical, cold, but what it really means is intimate and a little tragic. Your cells have stopped listening to their own messenger. Why would a cell do that? Imagine someone knocking on your door, gently, all day long. At first you answer every time, but if the knocking never stops, hour after hour, year after year, eventually you stop getting up. You tune it out. That is what your cells do when insulin is always high, always flooding the system because of meal after meal of fast sugar. They go quiet. They stop opening. And this is the part your doctor rarely has the time to fully explain. Once the muscle cells stop listening, the sugar has nowhere to go, but it has to go somewhere. So your body makes a desperate decision. It begins converting that extra sugar into fat. There is a name for this process: lipogenesis. Your liver quietly starts turning your breakfast into grease. Track what happens next, because this is where it turns. The pancreas, that loyal factory sitting behind your stomach, sees the rising sugar and does the only thing it knows how to do. It works harder. It pumps out more insulin than a healthy person would ever need, sometimes 2 or 3 times as much, just to drag your blood sugar back down. And it succeeds for a while. From the outside, you look fine, but inside, that factory is running red hot, every hour of every day, with no rest. No machine can run like that forever. And the cruelest twist is this: all that extra insulin doesn't just open doors. Insulin is also a storage signal. It is the hormone that tells your body to lock fat away and hold on to it. So the very thing your pancreas is producing to save you is also the thing quietly making it harder and harder for you to ever lose the weight. You are not stuck because you are lazy. You are stuck because your own biology has been pushed into a corner where it cannot win. So now you have a body full of sugar it cannot use, a liver learning to make fat, and a pancreas screaming itself hoarse. But it gets worse, because all that new fat the liver is making has to go somewhere, and where it goes next is the secret at the very center of this whole disease. For decades, doctors believed type 2 diabetes was a one-way street, a slow, permanent decline. You got it, you managed it, and you watched it slowly get worse for the rest of your life. Then a British researcher named Roy Taylor asked a question that almost no one was asking. What if the disease wasn't a decline at all? What if it was a trap, and traps can be sprung open? What he found rewrote the rulebook, and to understand it, you have to follow the fat. Remember, your liver has been quietly turning excess sugar into fat for years. But the liver was never meant to be a warehouse. As fat builds up inside it, the liver itself becomes deaf to insulin. And a fatty, deaf liver does something it was never built to do. It starts dumping sugar into your blood even when you haven't eaten anything at all. In the middle of the night, between meals, all the time. Picture a tap that won't turn off, slowly overflowing a sink while you sleep. That is the first whirlpool, spinning inside your liver. But the liver is overflowing now, and that fat has to spill somewhere. And the place it spills, the organ sitting right next door, is the pancreas. This is the center of everything. Tiny droplets of fat begin to seep into the pancreas, into the very cells whose only job is to make insulin. These are your beta cells, and they are delicate. When fat creeps into them, something heartbreaking happens. They begin to forget who they are. They stop behaving like the precise, responsive insulin makers they were born to be. Researchers have a haunting word for this: de-differentiation. The cells don't all die. They lose their identity. They go silent. And there it is, the second whirlpool, spinning inside your pancreas. Now look at what you have: a liver leaking sugar, a pancreas going quiet. And here is the terrible genius of it. The two whirlpools feed each other. The leaking liver raises your blood sugar, which forces the failing pancreas to push even harder, which floods the system with more insulin and more fat, which damages the pancreas further, which raises your blood sugar even more. Round and round, faster and faster. Two storms locked together, each one making the other stronger. This is the twin cycle. And for years while it spun, you simply felt tired. You blamed the long hours, the bad sleep, the creeping number on the scale. You had no idea that just beneath your ribs, two of your most loyal organs were drowning in the very fat your body had made trying to protect you. It sounds hopeless, doesn't it? A self-feeding storm with no way out. But remember that strange fact I planted at the very beginning. 7 days, blood sugar back to normal before any real weight is lost. Because here is what Roy Taylor proved next. And it changes absolutely everything. Here is what Roy Taylor and his team did. They took people who had lived with type 2 diabetes for years, people who had been told this was their life now, and they changed the one thing that started it all: the food. And the storm began to reverse. Because the twin cycle has a weakness hidden inside its own design. Those two whirlpools were built from fat. Fat in the liver, fat in the pancreas. And fat, it turns out, is the first thing your body burns away when you stop overwhelming it. Drain the fat, and the whirlpools lose their power. Both of them, at the same time. In a landmark study called Direct, published in one of the most respected medical journals in the world, nearly half of the people put their type 2 diabetes into full remission within a year, simply by changing how and how much they ate. And among those who lost the most fat, almost 9 out of 10 walked away from the disease entirely. No magic drug, no surgery, food. So what does food that heals actually look like? You already know the enemy: fast, naked sugar that crashes into your blood. The medicine is simply the opposite. It is slowing the tide back down. Think of fiber as a gatekeeper. When you eat sugar wrapped inside real fibrous food, vegetables, beans, whole intact grains, that fiber forms a kind of mesh in your gut. The sugar can no longer flood in all at once. It has to seep through, slowly, gently, a stream instead of a wave. Your pancreas can finally relax. The doors get a chance to rest. And then there is something almost absurdly simple: the order you eat in. Researchers found that if you eat your protein and your vegetables first, and save the rice or the bread for last, the exact same meal produces a dramatically smaller sugar spike. Same food, same calories. A completely different message sent to your cells, just by changing what touches your tongue first. Sit with that for a second. You don't always have to give up the foods you love. Sometimes you just have to change the sequence. Protein first, vegetables next, the starch smaller at the end. You can rebuild the entire conversation between your food and your body without ever feeling deprived. And this is the part that should fill you with something you may not have felt in a long time: hope. Because your body is not broken. It was never broken. It has simply been overwhelmed every single day by signals it was never designed to handle. Take those signals away, even for a little while, and it remembers exactly what to do. It always remembers. Which brings us back, at last, to the mystery: the 7 days. How a disease the world calls permanent can loosen its grip in a single week, before the scale has even begun to move. It is time to solve it. So why 7 days? Why does the blood sugar fall back to normal so fast before a single pound of real weight is gone? Here is the answer, and it is beautifully simple. Of the two whirlpools, the one in your liver is the easiest to drain. Liver fat is not locked away like the fat under your skin. It is active, restless, the first reserve your body reaches for the moment you stop flooding it with excess. So when you finally ease the daily tide of sugar, the liver empties first, fast. Within days, sometimes within a single week, that overflowing tap shuts off. The liver stops dumping sugar into your blood between meals. And just like that, your fasting blood sugar can fall back toward normal, long before your body shape has changed at all. The pancreas takes longer. The fat seeps out of those delicate insulin makers slowly, over weeks and months. And as it does, the beta cells that went silent begin, one by one, to remember who they are. The factory comes back online. Not all at once, but it comes back. That is the miracle hiding in the science. The damage you spent years building is not carved in stone. It is written in fat, and fat can be moved. Think of your body as a river. For years, that river has been dammed, slowly, quietly, by walls of fat in your liver and your pancreas, until the water backed up and flooded everything downstream. Your energy, your sleep, your mind. But a river never forgets its path. The moment you start pulling those walls down, the water remembers exactly where it was always meant to flow. You are not building something new. You are freeing something that was there all along. That is what every meal is. Not just fuel, a message, a single line in an ongoing conversation with the most patient, forgiving machine you will ever own. And starting with your very next bite, you get to decide what that message says. So before you go, here are the 3 things I want you to carry with you. The first is the truth. In its early years, type 2 diabetes is not a permanent sentence. It is, for many people, a reversible condition of too much fat in the wrong places, and your body is desperate to drain it. The second is the shift you can make today. Eat your protein and your vegetables before your starch. Wrap your sugars in fiber, never naked. And let go of the drinks that pour pure liquid sugar straight past every gatekeeper you have. Small changes, enormous signals. And the third is who you become. You stop being a patient managing a disease. You become a person teaching their body to remember itself. That is not maintenance, that is freedom. One last thing before you close this. I want you to be honest with yourself. The afternoon fog, the cravings at night, the tiredness you have been blaming on your age, your job, your years. How many of those quiet little symptoms have you been explaining away when your body was trying to tell you something all along? Tell me in the comments. I read every one. And one final reminder, because it matters, never change your medication on your own. Walk this road with your doctor beside you. Your body has been waiting a long time for you to listen. Today is a good day to start.